Thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you who are hopefully just stopping in to listen. This is my friend Cheryl. And so Cheryl, I don't know, how long has it been since we've known each other? Since what was it, 2001? Do you remember?
It had to be before that. Wait, let me think back. Did I have I have to do it by children's ages, right? I'm like, did I have a kid then? I think at least 2001, maybe in the late 90s. I mean, that's a real possibility. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. It,
yes.
it, it has been a while. So, simply the best results. And you've been doing I mean, I know that you had shifted from the first time that you had started your business, it
Mhm.
shifted a little bit from what you're doing now, which is, I think you did a lot back then, if I remember correctly, with businesses and so forth. And
Mhm.
now you do business and personal. Is that right?
Correct, because our selves, our person is so involved in our businesses, whether we own the business or we work for a business, how, what we're thinking, what we're paying attention to, all impacts that business. So, and our happiness. And so, yes, originally I started out a really long time ago, 1990. And I was doing corporate training and development. So I was a contractor for all different kinds of organizations and industries. In fact, I spent 7 seasons with the Spurs as a contractor, working not with the players, but with the back of the house because they're the ones who make it happen, right? The game happen. So, so I have lots of different industries I've worked with, everything from mortuaries to the Spurs to emergency rooms. It was just crazy and fun because I'm very curious. And so I was always trying to improve people's mood, their communication, their interactions with one another, teamwork. And what I figured out was you can't teach people. I mean, you could teach them to smile, but you can't make them smile if they're not happy, right? So as things progressed, I realized that there's a lot going on in individuals, like personally, that sets them up for success. So if they're not happy internally, it's going to be hard for them to create that and be that kind of happiness, and be happy on the job. And so I've kind of morphed a little bit. I still do a few businesses. I speak to organizations and associations, but I'm working a lot in small groups and one-on-one with people. Hmm. Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so cool too, because that one-on-one gives you more of a, I don't know if it's hands-on or just to be more in depth with one particular person that you're working with or a small
Absolutely.
people versus a big, huge company. I'm just guessing. I'm,
You're absolutely right. You're
yeah.
absolutely right because we get into something called group think when we work in an organization, especially if we work like in a specific small group or department. And you've probably heard organizations or people talk about silos within organizations. The accounting people don't talk to the sales people, and the sales people don't talk to the manufacturing people, depending on what industry you're in, right? So everybody's like in their little silo, and they come up with ways of thinking that may not be productive and great for the whole organization, but it's because they've adopted a belief
Yeah.
and do that as individuals too, and it sets a pattern for what's going to happen in our day every day.
That makes sense. So I know you when you come to our events, our networking events, you talk a lot about mindset. And I'm just curious. I mean, you also are able to help maybe people change some old-fashioned thinking that might have gotten them stuck into ways that they're doing things personally or in their business. Can you give me some examples maybe that you've come across that you see?
Sure. So it's interesting because we get in patterns of thinking and we think they're the truth, right?
Okay.
So we might have been told, well, a real one that most everyone is familiar with is we say stranger danger, right? We were taught that as children, if someone's strange to get away from them and or unknown to us. Let me define strange. There's a lot of strange people in the world, but I don't know, they kind of gravitate toward me and I think they're kind of interesting. So I don't mean like really
Yeah.
product type things, but I mean, people who are a little bit different. But the point is that when we were taught that, if we bring that belief forward and that's our truth, it keeps us from meeting new people and and maybe even dating on a personal basis. Or in a business setting, maybe we're a wallflower at a networking event and we don't talk to people. So, in fact, one of my friends, she was told as a she was the only girl in her family, and she had a lot of brothers. And I don't remember exactly how many, but that's not important. But the point is, her mother told her not to ever show her bum. And I don't mean like naked, I mean like in tight pants or like workout clothes. So
Uh-huh.
so she would wear a sweater or a jacket tied around her waist to cover her bum. And it's like she had a great figure. She was lovely. She was very, she was very well proportioned and there was nothing to hide. I mean, there was no reason to hide it kind of deal. But she carried that belief forward and that's impacting her adult life. She can't feel safe or free or whatever connotations were attached to that her mother telling her that. And I don't know how she actually took it. We never dissected that one to figure out what was behind it. But professionally, if we were told that, well, in fact, in our community, Gina, we will often hear it's a good old boys network in San Antonio, right? Well, I don't believe it. But a lot of people do, and a lot of women do. And so they think they can't get ahead because the men are gonna side with the men, right? And
Right.
and I haven't necessarily found that true in my 30 plus years of being in business. You know, I've sold primarily I mean, I can think of very
Yeah.
few women who've hired me for corporate, work. So
So
yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, because do you find you call yourself a mindset happiness coach? Um, do you find that there are maybe one group that leans more on trying to get help versus another group, or I don't know. I know that's kind of again maybe putting that mindset, but I don't I feel like women in general
Mhm.
more open.
And
No?
I think I agree with you. I do have male clients.
Mhm.
They are not, most of my clients aren't super long term. So most of them, 3 to 5, well, sessions, five, maybe 7 sessions. And we've worked through, because I work quickly, we work through the things that are holding them up and they're off and running. So it's not like when I work with them and I coach them, it's not like counseling where you can be
Right.
for years, because we're trying to get to a specific result and we're highly focused. So
Right. Yeah.
I do tend to have more women in my programs when I offer programs, and then one-on-one. Historically, it's probably 80% women, 20% men. Um, they're not always willing to admit that they're stuck or recognize that they're stuck. Women, I just think, are more tuned in, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So anyone that might be struggling with just trying to figure out how to get to um, better results in their business, you're able to sit with them to see if there's something there
Mhm.
that could possibly stopping them to get to the next level. I mean, I'm just kind of curious, what are some things that you do to help your clients?
So one of the things I do is I listen very attentively and ask really good questions. And I'm looking for the threads in the
Hmm.
patterns that happen, right? So I'm looking for things that tend to reoccur. Like let's say I'm a salesperson or my client's a salesperson and she says, it's really hard for me to sell to men. And I'll say, well, give me some examples. So I'm looking for patterns of where that comes from or where she thinks that's true. And then I can identify what the beliefs are around it and that are attached to it. Because it's never just one belief, because we have emotions and things like that are attached to it. And then quite often we will use a couple of different techniques depending on what it is. Very often we'll use tapping, and you may have seen that on the internet and other places where we've tapped on things, right? And in doing that, we're rewiring the brain. We're deleting that belief system and allowing a new belief system to come in. And so we get to create that new belief system. It's easy for me to send, we can do a total opposite. Once we clear the negative one out, we can say, oh, it's totally easy for men. They love to buy from me. It's easy to sell to men because they love to buy from me. And it just makes it so much easier. So
So
that becomes the
repeating something
reality.
maybe over and over so that way it goes into your mind, or and
It's
tapping? Is
Tapping
that
is part of it. We're using the meridian system
okay?
within the body, the Chinese medicine meridian system. And so it's kind of like how an acupuncturist would put needles in a certain spot. We're not using any needles. We're just tapping on the eyebrow, the side of the eye, under the nose, under the chin divot, collarbone, under the arm, and the top of the head. And by doing that, we're actually reprogramming it, like reprogramming our belief system. So we cancel the negative one out that says, I can't do this. And then we put another one in that says, I can do this, or something that's at least believable. So let's say, for instance, um, your belief is, I'll never be a millionaire, right? And this probably resonates with a lot of people, kind of thing. And if we get rid of that and say, I'm a millionaire, and it's so not true, right? We're living paycheck to paycheck or whatever, then our subconscious mind is not going to be able to take that in. However, if we say, I'm on my way to being a millionaire, that's believable. And our
Okay.
subconscious mind will take it in. And so then what happens is we then start adjusting the vibration that we're putting out into the world, and we start attracting things that are in alignment with that belief system.
Is it important for people to actually speak it out to make it happen, or is it more just thinking it? Or I'm just curious, like if you say, I want to do this, or I'm going to be this, is it better to speak it out loud, or if you just keep it in your head
Mind.
and say it? I'm
So
just
th- there's
changing vibration, or I don't know,
there's
just
well, it's vibration if it's in your head. I mean,
oh,
yes, you think voice, you think there's a vibration to your voice that makes sense. I think there's two schools of thought on that. One
okay,
is speaking it out. Be careful who you speak it to,
I gotcha.
right? Because they may go, ha, that's never going to happen. And you're like, there goes my dream, kind of deal. And they poo poo it. And then you're struggling to stay in that vision kind of thing. However, if you write it out and
Hmm.
speak it in your mind, and the reason you want to write it out is so you can get the details in there. Very often we'll have a concept in our mind, but it's not clear enough in our mind as a concept until we start adding descriptors to it. And when we add descriptors to it, then it can take hold in our subconscious mind, and then the vibration in our body shifts and puts that out into the world, and it starts attracting things. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. But writing it down and speaking it, even if you speak it to yourself, people have different learning modalities. So I'm very much auditory, so what I hear, and then I'm kinesthetic, so I need to write things down. Some people are visual, so they might have it written and look at it regularly, or have an image of what success looks like. You may cut it out of a magazine or create it in Canva or whatever, right? So yeah. So then that way it then becomes more reality for them, kind of deal. Make sense?
Yes, and I think too, I used to do a lot of journaling way back, and I unfortunately
Mm,
it seems like that's kind of gone away. Just gotten busy, but I like the idea of writing things and then maybe looking back and seeing
yes,
where you go at that end of that year. So do you suggest maybe just writing it and then
I do.
getting here yourself and then just changing that I guess your mindset, or are those some things just to be more positive too, about stuff, or
Certainly. I think, affirmations are often a hot item. But again, if an affirmation that's not believable is really hard for your subconscious mind to get a hold of, right? I'm a millionaire, and I've got
yeah.
$7,000 in the bank or whatever, right? So it's really hard to even imagine that or try on that energy. However, if you if you will start imagining it, what does it feel like to be a millionaire? There was this wonderful, and I encourage everybody to try it. And Vera says she does tapping a few times a week. Way to go, Vera. Thank you. And Pearl says, yeah, I agree, not saying it out loud. So thanks for your feedback, ladies. There was this game when I took my coaching certification, I'm calling it a game. There was this tool we used, and it was we got $1,000 every day, and this was play money in our minds, right? It was a written example, so we had to commit. But every day we got $1,000. The first day we got $1,000. The second day we got $2,000. Third day we got three, four, and so forth. So by the 30th day, we had $30,000 or $300,000 or whatever, and you can play with it at any dollar amount you want. You could do 10,000, but the key is you had to imagine, this is imaginary money. You had to imaginary spend it all before the end of the day. So what it did was it raised your threshold of what was possible, right?
Okay.
And try it. I really encourage you to try it. So write it down that first day. I want you to give yourself $10,000. And then I want you to figure out how are you going to spend that $10,000. I was buying boats, I was buying expensive cars, I was buying beach houses, when I got the really big money, because you can't carry it forward. You just get another
Yeah.
$10,000, you know. So it got to, I was running out of ideas, and I thought, I'm going to buy a collector's stamp that's worth whatever dollars I needed to spend that day, right? And you could buy multiple things, but you were trying not to repeat them. And so I thought, and then I'm going to mail it, because just holding the stamp means I still have that value. But if I have it postmark, it probably loses its value. What I was thinking. Anyway, so the thing is, it's a fun game, and it changes your mindset about money. And very
Okay.
often we hold subconscious beliefs about money. Mhm.
Interesting. Okay. So I know that you're having like a class or something coming. Is that right? Or like,
That's right.
tell me a little bit about that and what
Okay.
what you're doing in your group.
So I've got two things. One that's just started. It's called a manifestation coaching circle. It's an 8-week program, and we are full in that program. But I'll probably run another one, and maybe I'll start it in May. It'll go May, June kind of thing. This one ends late April, and what we do is we meet once a week at lunchtime, and we talk about the law of attraction. We talk about having our energy in alignment, and we set an intention for that 8-week period that is doable, right? We don't use a SMART model. I don't like SMART models. I don't really like the 4-letter word goal. So we're using the word intention, and we're really there for one another. We're holding the energy for each other to reach their intention. So that's one thing I have going on. On April 1st, yes, I'm not kidding, April Fool's Day. It's a Tuesday. I am going to have a workshop, and it's called Building Unwavering Self-Esteem, so that you can be, do, and have your desires, whatever you desire. And so it'll be in the evening from 6:30 to 8:30. And if you're interested, please reach out to me, follow me on Facebook. I'm Cheryl C. Jones. I'll be sending information out, or, just,
I'll also put the information once I finish here, tag
okay,
it.
great. Thank you.
Just,
Perfect. Yeah,
yeah.
so it's $40 to attend, and really it's just to cover food and beverages and materials kind of thing. And it'll be a lot of fun. We'll talk when you think of self-esteem, also think self-confidence. If you've got those negative Nelly thoughts running through your head and it's harassing you internally, we can do something about that, because that is part of that belief system, that mindset that's stopping you from being all that you were born to be, basically.
Yeah. And it's so easy sometimes too to be I guess having that support group, but that would be really cool because you kind of maybe
Right.
um stop yourself from saying certain things, or I don't know if you find that are people tend to be more negative by nature? I don't know if that's
Actually, there's science on that. Yes, they do. It's out of self-protection. And so we're always trying to look for the negative possibility or do it to ourselves so someone else doesn't. And it's unfortunate we're programmed that way just because of survival, and it's sad. I mean, a neuroscientist did research on that, and I watched and talked and visited a lot of and read a lot of his stuff, and that it's not new information, but it's what we do. And so we just aren't very kind to ourselves. And then when somebody else isn't kind to us and they say something, it validates our belief that we're not good enough, that we don't amount to enough. And then we start believing it. And unfortunately, if you got, disciplined or schooled or, at school, at home, wherever, right? Somebody schools you, then it reminds you of that belief that's already internal that you're not enough. And of course, that's false. That's a false belief. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. So for April 1st, that's on a Tuesday, isn't it? Is that a
Correct.
Tuesday?
It is.
And that's for 8 weeks?
No, that one's just a one-time thing. And then I'll have another one, another of the 8-week program, the manifestation circles. They will probably start in early May,
I'd
mid-May.
like to go to that one. I hope I can be available on Tuesday. I just got to look on April 1st, and that's $40, and it's like
It,
somewhere we meet and we get
yep.
to.
We're actually meeting at the Jones Conference Center and Resort. You will not find it on the map, but
Oh,
I'll have to
okay.
give you the address. It's a secret conference.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. I went over my head. Hello.
You might, for those watching, you might notice the last name similar to the Conference Center and Resort.
So I want to make sure too. I'd like to. I know we've been getting a couple of people interacting, but um, does anyone have like a question right now for Cheryl that I can look in the comments? Would love to have your participation. I know Vera says she does the tapping a few times a week, and she says thanks, Cheryl. But if anyone has a question, and I'm just curious too. Do you do people give a certain, and do you feel their energy when you meet them first time around? Or is that kind of like after a couple of times? But don't we usually give some kind of energy or put some kind of vibe out there?
If
No?
you think about it, we have an energy bubble around us all the time. And that energy bubble, the energy that's in that bubble is representative of the emotions that we're feeling. The emotions that we're feeling come from the thoughts that we're thinking. Follow
Okay.
that? So it's kind of backwards, but so the thoughts that we're thinking are creating a chemical reaction within our body. This is science. And
Hmm.
then it creates an emotion in our body. That emotion creates a vibration that goes out in this invisible energy bubble, which might be considered an aura, right? I don't call it that. I just call it an energy bubble. And then that energy bubble is picked up by other people. I tend to be highly sensitive. And so I feel other people's energy, and if I know them, I don't hug everybody, but if I know them, then I can tell that their energy is not their normal level, and I'll just go and give them a hug, because hugs are amazing, amazingly healing. And so that's important. We need to know that how we're feeling is really, we think we're stuffing it and hiding it, but it's really coming out. And people, it may not be clear on our face because we may be, real happy and smiley, but on the inside, we may be crying. And it does get communicated. It does get communicated. Mhm.
Wow. Uh, let's see if I had anybody else that said anything. Da 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 da. I don't see any more, but I'm so just so that if anyone is just kind of watching, is trying to figure out like where my eyes are going. So I'm trying to look right at Cheryl at the camera, but I can't see Cheryl. I only see Cheryl on my Facebook page because the whole thing disappeared. I don't know how to even
I think you're
define.
doing well as a blind woman.
So I've been just trying to do that. And but what's cool is that I have been able to see, some of the comments and everything that did come up. And I'm just curious, what do you enjoy most about what you do? I mean, you've been doing it now for a while, and it seems like you're very passionate about it. So I'm just curious. What
I
do you?
I feel like it's not a it's not just coaching, right? Or working one-on-one with people, and it's not just speaking. I love this subject because it literally the modalities that I use when I work with people save my life. When I learned them, I was in a really dark place, and I realized, and tapping was the first thing I learned about it, and or first modality I learned, and it brought me out of that dark place. And it's interesting, you know how our lives kind of do roller coasters, with drama. And it's mine were like, and then they come back up and but not for very long. And then they go back down again. And it got really heavy. And when I realized that my thoughts, I could change my thoughts, I could change my mindset. Peaks and valleys are much smaller. They're not like they were before, like a roller coaster. It's like gentle waves, and I can deal with that really well. And I would say I'm a much happier person because of it overall. I have a lot more joy in my life. I don't have those crazy drama people around me because that's not the energy I'm putting out, right? And when I had crazy drama, I had other crazy drama people coming and around me, right? And I don't have that anymore. I have lovely, lovely people that are around me, like you, like Vera, that are a joy to be with. And so I really love talking about this because I feel like it empowered me in such a way for me to take my life back and to be more positive and more successful in my relationships, in my business. I just, it's just incredibly powerful. And I feel like if everyone knew the tools, I mean, we would just be kinder to one another, more compassionate. We wouldn't need to fight. There wouldn't be road rage. There wouldn't be so many things, going on. This need to get one up on somebody or whatever. And so I love both the group work because I love the camaraderie and then I love the individual work as well. So, yeah. That was
That's
a long answer to your
no,
question.
I love it. Um, so what would be the best way if somebody is wanting to get started and wants to change their journey? Maybe they're just stuck in their relationships things that are just doing the same thing over and over, and they think it's going to change, and then they just stay there. I don't know. Can you help somebody with that? Try to
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
because sometimes you'll hear people say, "Yeah, I keep dating the same kind of guy, or I keep dating
Yeah.
the same kind of girl," and I'm like, "Goofball, really? That you have a choice here? It's not just choosing somebody different, but you keep choosing the same people because you have a mindset around it, and you haven't allowed anything else, so you keep targeting that same type of person." And in business, we do the same thing. We make grand conclusions that aren't accurate. And when we can identify those, that's the first step. Oh, I notice I'm dating this kind of person, or I know that I have a belief I can't find a date, or I can't find a soulmate or a partner. And all of that is BS, backstory. So when we start changing our thinking, our outcome changes, our results change. And it's amazing how quickly it happens. Now, it's real easy to kind of slip back into the old patterns because they're comfortable and they're familiar. But if you hold the intention and we clear the false beliefs, and as Vera said, she taps regularly because I taught her to tap, and so it changed Vera's beliefs about things, and she's very successful. So the way to get started is really just identify what it is that's not working for you. And then, you can give me a call and we could talk about it and see if we're a match, because sometimes people aren't a good match, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. You could, look on the internet and look for on YouTube for tapping videos. That's just one way of addressing it, and put your issue in, kind of thing. But yeah, so there's a lot of ways to get started. I typically have a 30-minute free phone call with people when they're interested, and see, just see if we're a fit. Let's see if I can work with you. I've worked with people with addictions. I've worked with people who were cutters, were self-inflicted self-harm. I've worked with people who were on the brink of divorce. I've worked with people who felt like they were always comparing themselves to their siblings. I mean, a wide variety. You have people with different needs and, and it all works. You don't have to have one kind of issue because it's all the thoughts in our head. It all comes back to mindset. Yeah.
That's that's really cool. So, let me make sure that I have all my questions that I want to make sure that I covered. Well, I think I touched on most of them. I'm just like um wondering, like you personally, uh, every time I see you, you always have this nice smile on your face and you always seem to be upbeat and energetic. So I'm sure you don't feel like that all the time. So what are just some little things that you do to try to get, and then Vera's talking about magnets. I don't know what she's talking. So
I know what she's talking about. Do we
so
have time to talk about magnets?
yeah, well, I'm just
Okay.
curious. So I mean, because you're I don't think I've ever seen you look sad. I mean, at least
Well,
you do. You always seem to you have a nice smile and you give a nice presence and just friendliness. And I mean, you do have that aura to me that's, very positive. So I would imagine there's some days you don't always feel that way. So I'm just kind of curious, what are some little quick tips to kind of get you back on track?
so tapping is really powerful. And when I am not feeling my best, I try to identify what's active, right? I say what's active, what thought is active in my brain, right? And and I then tap on that and talk about it. And that's part of the tapping where you talk about what the issue is. So, you identify the issue, you claim the issue, and by saying, I have this issue, but I love and accept myself anyway. And then you talk about the issue when you're tapping on the individual points. So, you know, I'm upset because of this happening. No one loves me, blah, whatever. And you exaggerate it. And that causes the energy of the negative belief to dissipate. And
Okay.
it's amazingly powerful. So, but you're right. I'm not always up and positive and, you know, even though I try. There are times that I've not been that way. But
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I'm with you, when I'm in your networking groups, I always feel good about being there. And so you're part of that. And I think I'm getting your energy and reflecting it back to you. But I usually come, intend to have a positive mindset when I get there. So it's not like I just show up. I come with a positive mindset and I intend to have fun and connect with people. And so rather than just showing up and waiting for somebody to talk to me at a networking event, no,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I also feel like too, just being around other people too that give good,
right,
right? Like it just kind of helps you to feel, to get that energy and to feel positive. So I do
absolutely,
feel it's very important who you surround yourself with too to help with your mindset.
yes,
So if you're around people that are always Debbie Downer,
mhm.
or Donnie Downer, I won't just say.
Either way, yes,
Right. And you're always surrounding yourself by things that are just and you have to be careful too with even just watching too much of the news because that can be a real downer too.
absolutely. I don't watch the news, and I'm not like, like sticking my head in the sand. I know what's some of the things that are going on in the world. There are very difficult challenges going on and they're very real. However, I know what it will do to me being a highly sensitive person, which a lot of people are, by watching too much of that. And so it will just pull you down. And in fact, I swipe up quite regularly to get through things on TikTok and other social media trends that are negative, and I just
Yeah.
just move on past.
Yes.
So that I'm not allowing that to enter my energy bubble, if you will, because it will shift my energy. I will begin to feel hopeless and helpless and can't do anything about it. And that's not a place of power for any of us. So I encourage everybody to limit the negative social media and the news and stay in your power place.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, I love it. And I think that afterwards I'll chat with you about the April 1st. But anyone that wants to reach out, I'm going to have Cheryl's information. And I would just want to make sure that if anyone is here that has any questions, to please put them. If not, is there anything, Cheryl, that you want to make sure that you say that I did not include?
We didn't talk about Vera's magnets.
Okay, let's talk about those magnets. I want to know what the heck are you talking about?
So, actually, I have a set of them here. There's a set of balls. Okay. Magnets are, and we have magnetic fields in our body. And just like a compass wants to point to true north, and if you put a magnet near it, it will kind of get a little nutty, the compass will. And so we want our energy to run, north to south, if you will, right? And that's not if we're just standing up, but long ways. But we have these energy meridians that run throughout our body. And as I mentioned earlier, acupuncturists use that and tapping uses that. So one of the things that I'm trained in is something called the emotion code. And I am on, and actually some of the people on the call may be familiar with when we've been at networking events and we've done the sway test where we stand up, we close our eyes and we say, show me a yes, show me a no. And we do those independently of one another, and then we see which way our body sways. Well, that's a form of muscle testing. A pendulum, if you've ever watched the TV show Charmed, I don't know if I haven't seen the newer version of it, but the old one, they would use a pendulum and hold it over the map to find out where the demon was, right?
Oh,
Do
wow.
you remember
Okay.
that? Okay. And it
I
would
don't
like
think
go
I've
to a
ever
place on
watched
the
that.
map.
Yeah.
Well, it's not spooky like that at all. It's our own field, our own magnetic field. So
Uh-huh.
when we have emotions or traumas that are unresolved, then it throws our energy off. It's not flowing in an even direct fashion. It gets kind of lumpy, wonky kind of deal. So what I do is I muscle test, and I'm able to do that because I'm trained in it and I teach others to do it. Or I could use a pendulum, but I learned that I'm so much faster when I use my hands. So I put my ring finger and my thumb together, and that's your weakest finger on your hand. And then I take my other two fingers and put them inside the loop, right? Very good, Gina. And you put your other two fingers inside the loop from the bottom, and then you pull against it. And so where in this case, we say, show me a yes, and you pull against it. And in my case, my yes is when my fingers don't open and let my hand go through. Then if I say, show me a no, it slides right through like butter sometimes. It's crazy. Show me a yes, and it gets stuck. And
Huh.
I'm able to do that for myself, get yes or no answers for myself, and I can get yes or no answers for others. Then I use this chart that's back here, and it's got 60 emotions on it. Negative emotions, things like anger, resentment, fear, various things. I don't have them memorized because I look at the chart regularly, right? And then I can identify what is stuck in your system and blocking you from being happy, from moving forward through whatever it is. To get everything back online, we don't have to tap. I use magnets. And so we do them over the top of the head,
Oh,
and we just swipe them like that. And literally, you could use a refrigerator magnet. I have one right here. It says choose joy. And you can use it, literally do that. So if you are having worries, like you need to go talk to a banker or you need to go do something you're a little anxious about, you and identify what the emotion is. If it's anxiousness, and you just go, I release this anxiousness, and you use your refrigerator magnet, and it starts bringing your
oh,
energy back in alignment, right?
wow.
So this system works. I can do it for others as a surrogate, right? I can do it for others anywhere. So I have a client that lives in the Netherlands, and
Uh-huh.
I mean, which is crazy. And she says, and I'm doing the swiping with the magnets, and I'm here. And she goes, I felt that. And then there's another one that lives in Australia, and she'll go, and her name's Athena, and she goes, ah. And she'll feel it. And so it's amazing because we are all connected energetically. We're really not separate. And we need to
Very
all
well.
learn that. What we're doing to someone else, ultimately, we're doing to our own energy.
Well, it's just kind of weird. When you said magnets, I have, and I was looking down this way, I'll show it to you. I have like this pack of magnets, and I think that I
That might be a little overkill,
think
Gina.
um, are were craft magnets. I don't know. They're like little magnets. It's a whole,
They will work. You don't have to use all of them. Yeah, you can use the whole thing over your head. I have another little set of magnets, little three magnets have a hole in them. They were left over from some science project when my kid was in science. Um, and I used those for a long time. And then I found these round balls, which were kind of cool.
okay.
Yeah. So I
Well,
think,
now I know what Vera's talking about.
yeah.
Okay. And Vera says, "That's awesome, Gina." Yeah, so now I have my magnets. My goodness. Well, now I
So if
know
you
what
have
them.
if you're having some challenges like getting the newspapers out that you create, or writing
Yeah.
articles, you can rub it, you can swipe it over your head and say, release this creative insecurity.
Yes.
And then and it's like all of a sudden I use that all the time when I'm trying to write something or create something, and I'm like, oh, I'm stuck. And then I use release this creative insecurity. And I
Yeah.
right away I can figure out, I know what I need to write and everything.
Well, I find it very fascinating, very interesting. We can go on a bunch of other topics, but maybe we'll save it for
That's a
another
great idea.
time. But yeah, that's great. So I really appreciate you just coming in and chatting. So I'm going to make sure to add it and it'll stay there. If anybody wants more information, just look up above and I'll also tag Cheryl too. I don't know if it'll actually go to your page, but you can let me know which one you want me to tag and I'll have your contact information.
That would be great. Thank you, Jean. Thank you for this. I really enjoyed the conversation
Oh,
tonight.
it's fun. I had a good time. Look, and it was probably around about 40, I said about 40 minutes or so because we got started a little bit late because of the technical difficulties. When,
Hopefully it'll straighten out. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.